be or not to be, that is the question. It depends on a certain condition. Just as going to Disney with a friend, whether to bring an umbrella depends on the weather. If it's raining, grab it and go to Disney. Otherwise, head straight there. So, how can we represent a condition in programming? A condition only have two different statements, true or false. In programming, we call it a Boolean. Remember the first episode, we know that a Boolean data type could be a function's output. So we can use functions to represent conditions. Like the isRain function returns true if raining and returns false if not. Or compared to numbers, greater than, less than, or equal to. We can also use math sign to simplify the syntax. However, remember the last episode, we already used the equal sign to represent the set2 function, so we use a double equal sign instead to represent the equal to function. Besides using function, we can also store Boolean values in variables. These are often referred to as Boolean Flags. By using them, we can keep track of the conditions in our code and make it more organized and readable. Back to Disney. So how do we represent the logic? Well, we only bring the umbrella when it's raining. In other words, we skip or jump this event if the condition is false. Let's use a new function called jump if not, and jump after the bring umbrella function. In the computer, we record the destination's line number or label instead, but we draw it like this to make it easier to understand. Again, to make the code simpler, we used if keyword with curly braces to mark the jump destination instead, but the logic behind it is still the same as the jump if not function. Now, we've created the first condition logic in programming, the if statement. Next, what if instead of heading straight there when it's not raining, we want to bring our sunglasses first? How do we do that? Well, we can create a new function called bring sunglasses and put it before the jump destination. If the condition is false, we'll run the bring sunglasses function. But here's the catch. If the condition is true, we'll actually run both functions, which is not what we intended. To fix this, we can use a pure jump function without any condition. This way, we can skip the second function if the condition is true. In high-level language, we use the else keywords with curly braces to mark the section that only runs when the condition is false. For the jump function, we use the break keywords instead to skip to the end of the condition logic. This break function is often omitted, and that is the if-else statement. We've got one option, two options, and now we are thinking about three or more options. Just like giving different grades based on GPA, we could use the else-if keywords with conditions to handle these scenarios. Here's how it works. If the first condition is true, we run the first chunk of code and then jump to the end. If it's false, we check the second condition. After going through all the conditions, if they're all false, we go to the else chunk. Just a heads up, this logic seems to work the same as two if-else statements nested together like this. But these two ways of thinking are very different. Usually, in the same level, the conditions should be in the same category and complement each other. In comparison, the nested if-else statements allows us to consider different angles of the condition. In the end, in some programming language, it's common to have logic that performs different actions based on the value of a variable like this. So they've come up with these switch case statements and the default keyword to make things easier. But here's the thing, the break function can't be skipped because it makes the code more flexible. This way, you can run the same function with different values without having to repeat the code multiple times. Okay, today we learned a lot. Let's summarize the logic of condition. First up, we use functions that returns a Boolean value as a condition. Another option is to use a Boolean variables which are often called Boolean flags. In the if-else statement, we check the condition in order and run the code of block if the condition is true. We can also create if and if-else statements without using some of the chunks. But the basic logic behind them is actually two new functions, jump if not and jump. And if you are looking for a more convenient way to handle different variables values, you can use swift case statement. But don't forget the break function, otherwise it may work unexpectedly. The magic of condition and jump function is still massive. We'll discover the second logic, loops, in the next episode. See you around and have fun.